Hello everybody and welcome back to AOR Season 16 here for round number 6, the Monaco Grand Prix. And coming into this round after Baku and Spain, which in both races I finished P8, which is definitely not where I want to finish. So heading into this round I was definitely hoping for a good result. And my race pace during practice seemed to be really good, and as it has been so far this season, my qualifying pace is letting me down. And round here at Monaco, obviously qualifying is very, very important. So we've got to try and have a good qualifying here today, but I wasn't coming into this too confident in what I could do in qualifying. So even if we qualify outside the top 10, it's not going to be the end of the world because we can start on the harder compound. And you can see here, after my first 2 runs in qualifying on the Hypersoft tyres, I'm currently in P10, which obviously I'm going to try and improve on. I can't really remember what times I was doing in practice in terms of 1 lap pace, but it was definitely quicker than what I've done so far in this qualifying session, but it wasn't anywhere near the top guys in terms of qualifying pace. So as it has been so far this season, my qualifying's not been great, so I've really got to try and work on that in the remainder of the season. But it was kind of a similar situation in season 14 and even season 13 in F2 on F1 2016 as well. The qualifying has let me down, but the race pace has always been there, and it was the same round here. I remember in one of the practice sessions I did, my consistency was really, really good, and that gave me a lot of confidence in terms of race pace. But coming towards the line now, we're a 10th up on our previous best time, and we've done a 7.9, which is only good enough for P11 on the grid, which in some ways is the best position you can qualify if you're not going to be in the top 5, because you can start on the harder compound, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start on the super soft tyres and then extend my first stint and then pit towards the end of the race and have the pace advantage at the end. But you can see the lights are out and away we go here for the Monaco Grand Prix, and we get a pretty decent launch, although we've gone to the inside line, which is not really where we want to be because we're getting backed up here by Alex, and that's allowed Tim Palm to go around the outside into P10 there. So we've lost 1 position off the start already. Tim Palm's actually on the ultra soft tyres, which I didn't really expect him to go on, but you can see already there's a bit of contact in front, so we're having to be very cautious here, trying not to get any kind of damage on lap 1. Already there's a bit of a split between the top 3 and the rest, but you can see we've run into the back of Tim Palm already, and that is the worst thing you can do in a league race. Lose half your front wing on lap 1. It's honestly the worst feeling you can have, because you know you've got to put up with it for an absolute age in this first stint, and especially being on the harder compound as well. I've got to put up with this damage and this understeer for absolutely ages, but we did manage to go around the outside of Alex into the hairpin, so we've got back up into P11, and that was a pretty nice move from me there to get back up into P11. So we're behind Tim Palm, who's on the ultra soft tyres, and I think everyone else in front of him is on the Hypersoft. So still we're not in a bad position, but this damage is probably going to cost us probably over half a second a lap compared to what we would have been doing without this damage. So that's a little bit, well, not just a little bit frustrating, that's very frustrating. But if you look at the minimap already, you can see how much of a massive gap there is already to the top 3 of my teammate Dom. I think it was Nardi and Alex as well. They've already got an absolutely massive gap to, I think, Floris in P4 or Michael in P4, I don't really remember. But yeah, I'm not sure how that happened. There must have been a little bit of contact which caused that little spread in the gap there. But you can see Tim Palm actually missed the chicane there in front, and already I think he's starting to struggle on his tyres a little bit. You can see he's hitting the wall a little bit as well, so I think he had front wing damage. I'm not entirely sure, but we're gaining on him right now. So I think he came into the pits at the end of this lap due to his damage, and yes he does, so he's into the pits already. And him being on the ultra soft tyres as well, that means pretty much his race is ruined, because he's going to have to do a 2-stop strategy, which is not what you want to do around here. So that's now put us up into P7 behind Michael by 4.3 seconds, and a further 4.3 seconds back is Aresi in P8. So we're still first out the super soft runners, I believe, and now is the stage where you start to have a bit of an advantage on the guys who are on hypersofts as well. And you can see moving on towards the end of lap 6, I've already caught the 2 McLarens, so despite the damage we've actually got really good pace on these tyres compared to the guys on hypersoft tyres. So Floris comes into the pits now, and that puts us up into P5, and we've got one of our championship rivals, VGI and Michael, in front by only 1.5 seconds. So in 2 laps I've closed about 3 seconds on him, which is, yeah, pretty surprising despite the damage we have. So it's a little bit frustrating as well, because I know I would have had even more pace if it wasn't for the damage. But you can see in front of Michael just how big the gap is to the top 3 of my teammate Dom. I think it was Nardi and Alex as well following him, so that's an absolutely massive gap, and I think that was caused by a bit of contact on lap 1. But you can see here on lap 7 Michael comes into the pits now, and that puts us up into P4. and then I think in the coming laps as well we'll also have the top 3 coming to the pits, and you can already see the gap Dom has in the lead, and yeah, it's really impressive to have that kind of gap in that kind of time, because his pace was absolutely insane. And I think if I'd qualified in the top 5, maybe I could have fought for a podium, but I didn't have anywhere near the same pace as Dom. He was just absolutely incredible this weekend around Monaco, so fair play to him, and it looks like he's going to have an easy victory. And you can see here on lap 10 both Williams cars have pitted, and Dom's actually come out behind us, and he's 7 tenths behind us right now. He's on a totally different strategy to us, and there's no point holding him up really, because I'm not in the situation to be able to race him in this one, because yeah, he's already a pit stop effectively in front of me, and with my damage and with my older tyres and everything, there's no point holding him up, because I wouldn't only be holding him up, I'd also be holding myself up by having him right behind me, so there's no point in that. So I let him go down the pit straight, and Dom goes through into the lead, so we're just going to let him get on with his race. As you can see, he says thank you there, but we're going to let him get on with his race, and then we're going to get on with our own and continue in this stint, just trying to be as consistent and as fast as possible with the damage we have. The gap back to Nardi I think was still quite big at this stage. I think it's about 5 seconds, so in the following laps we're going to expect him to catch us up pretty quickly with his fresher tyres, and obviously no damage for him, so he's obviously going to be quicker compared to us. But right now we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to try and be as consistent and as quick as possible in order to come out of the pits in the best possible position to utilise the pace we're going to have in the final stint on the softer tyre. And also in the pits I'm going to have I'm going to change my front wing, so I'm going to have more downforce in the final stint, and we're not going to have to put up with this understeer that we have right now. But considering this damage we have, and considering the tyres are quite old compared to the people around us, our pace wasn't too bad. And I know Dom is already 7.8 seconds in front of us, but we were able to stay in front of Nardi pretty easily. In fact, he wasn't really right on the back of me, and he wasn't going for moves every single corner, so the pace wasn't too bad. And I think even without this damage we'd probably be like about half a second quicker than what we are right now. But you can see now, moving on to lap 21, still on these tyres, extending the stint, and you can see Nardi's actually looking to the inside there of Casino. I think he was getting a little bit frustrated now behind us because he wanted to get through, because he knew his pace was better. But you can see the gap to Dom is 14.2 seconds, so we've done Dom a bit of a favour here by holding up Nardi, and also Alex I think is closing on his teammate a little bit more now. But you can see here on lap 21 we've come into the pit lane, and we're going to change our front wing as I said earlier. But you can see on the mini map there's a little bit of a group in the middle there of about 4 cars. I think it's Curly, Deagle, Big C and Michael as well. So changing the front wing, we're hoping to come out just in front of that group, and if we can then we should be able to finish pretty easily in P4, because Army Danny MG in front of us right now, he's yet to pit, so we'd be coming out in a provisional P4 if we could do that. So out of the pits now, but we're not going to be in front of this group, and in fact we're going to be just in the middle of it. In fact, can we stay out in front of Michael? And yes, we can, just about. We sort of forced him towards the wall there pretty aggressively, but we've stayed in front of him in P8 right now, so we've got to try and overtake these 3 in front of us, and we're going to have such a pace advantage considering they are on the super soft tyres and I am on the ultra soft tyres, and my tyres are so much fresher, and we also don't have the understeer we have. But in hindsight I really wouldn't have gone to change my front wing, because we would have actually come out in front of this group right now, so we would have been in provisional P4. And even if I'd continued with the damage I had, I think my pace would have been good enough to stay easily in front of this group. But as I said, right now it's Danny in the Haas who's in P4 and he's yet to pit, so if we'd come out in front of this group we would have been in provisional P4, and then we could have just focused on holding on to that P4. We would have had so much better pace than these guys in front of us, and we wouldn't have been able to catch the 2 Williams cars, but still P4 from P11 on the grid around Monaco would have been a fantastic result. But it's still not out of the question. All we've got to do is try and get in front of these cars, which is easier said than done around Monaco, because it's so hard obviously to overtake around here. But our first target is Deagle to try and overtake, and I'm going to try and do that as soon as possible. So we need a good run out of turn 1 here, and we've got a pretty decent run, ERS and overtake. And can we set up a move into Casino Square? We looked to the inside there, but we weren't able to get the move done into that corner. But out of here we've got a pretty decent run, and we're looking to the inside of Mirabeau, and we're going to go down the inside here a bit later than him on the brakes. He leaves us a lot of room, which is pretty fair from him, and that's good driving from him as well. So going side by side into the hairpin like we did on lap 1 with Alex, and we pinch him towards the apex of the corner, and we get P7 there. So that was a pretty nice move there from myself. I did like that move at the time. I thought that was pretty good and pretty fair from him as well. So fair play to him for leaving the room he did, because yeah, that was good fair racing. And we're now up into P7, and next up is Big C to try and get through. And I'm going to try and set up a similar move here. So once again, we've got a good run out of this corner. I'm going to look to the inside here. I go for the same move, and he turns in on me here into Mirabeau, and that was totally the opposite to what Deagle did. And now into the hairpin, going side by side, and he's just shoved me straight into a wall. He got front wing damage as well, and we're going to have to reverse and get out of the wall and get going again. And yeah, that went to the stewards. He actually got a penalty for that, which I think is fully deserved, because I've seen his footage as well, and literally mid-corner he just accelerates straight towards the wall and puts me into the wall, and also puts himself into the wall as well. And you can now see, moving onto the following lap, despite his damage he's not come into the pits, and he stayed out an extra lap. So I'm not really too sure as to why he did that, because his damage was quite significant. And you can see once again, I want to get past him, but he's driving so slow on this lap, and I think he could have driven probably quicker than he is right now, considering he has damage, which is fair enough, but he's driving really slow. I'm not sure why he stayed out with that damage. You can just see how slow he's going around the hairpin, and I'm not sure if staying out was deliberate or not. And look how early he breaks into that corner. I nearly got front wing damage from that if I had not spotted how early he braked into there. But now we're going to try and go for a move around the outside of the chicane, and we're going to go for it. But you can see he's pretty much pushed me off once again, and I get a warning for corner cutting, and I just go through on him, and I get the position. And yeah, he forced me off there at the chicane, and I had nowhere to go but straight on. I've kept the position because I felt like if I was to go back behind him again, he probably would have stayed out an extra lap to try and hold me up a little bit more, and I'm not sure why that was. I think he was probably angry with the collision, but it wasn't my fault at the end of the day. And you can see he's in the pits right now. So we are now down to P9, and that's probably cost us a shot at getting P4 in this race, because we've lost position to Yano and Epic Gamer, I think, as well, and Michael as well as that. So quite a few people who are in the championship fight we've lost positions to because of that. We still have a pace advantage on these guys compared to what they have on the Super Softs, so we're going to try and get back past Yano and try and then after that catch Lucas and Michael. But you can see going into the chicane this time, I'm going to try around the outside again, but I've cut the corner and I'm going to let him through, because obviously I outbrake myself there. So he goes back through, and we're back down into P8. So on the following lap I'm going to try the same thing again, but into Mirabeau. We've got an opportunity here, so we're going to go down the inside, but he leaves the room, but there's not really any way to get through there on this lap. So we're going to have to settle for staying in P8 at this moment, and we're going to try and set up a move for the outside of the chicane once again. If we can get a good run out of this corner, we've got plenty of ERS to use as well. So out of the corner, ERS and overtake, fuel and rich as well. Going down the straight, we're going to look to the outside of the chicane here, and can we make the move stick? We're going side by side, and we actually make the corner there this time, and two cars around there. I've never really seen that before, but going around the outside of to back, that is a move I've never done before in my life, but we've managed to make it stick around the outside. I've never seen anyone overtake around the outside of there before, and we've managed to make the move stick for P7, and I was pretty proud of that move. That was definitely a very satisfying move, and also fair play to Yano as well for leaving me plenty of racing room, and that was a very fair fight. So yeah, it's racing like that which is always really, really good in AOR, and that's the part of it that I enjoy. But now we've got to set our sights on catching Deagle in front, and we've managed that pretty quickly with the pace advantage we have. But you can see I've cut the corner at the chicane, and I've got a 3-second time penalty, which yeah, it's not an ideal race this one. It hasn't gone well. It was going really well until I came out the pits and came out in that group. I think if, yeah, as I said, in hindsight, if I didn't change my front wing, I'd be in an easy P4 right now, which would have been a great result. But we've got to try and, once again, third race in a row, go for some damage limitation here. So we're going to have to try and get back past Deagle like we did earlier on, and we're going to probably try and set up the same move we did earlier. And we got a good run out of turn 1 here, so up the hill, ERS and overtake. I'm going to look to the inside of Casino Square, but there's no room this time round, so we're going to have to settle for staying in P7 at least this time round. In fact, we're going to look to the inside once again of Mirabeau, but yeah, I wasn't going to go for anything too risky that time. but out of turn 1, and we've actually got a warning there for exceeding track limits once again, so we don't want to pick up another penalty. But up the hill, and this time we're going to look up the inside of Casino once again. There's just about enough room for both of us. That was nearly into the wall there for us, but we've got the cut back line, and we're going to go through now into P6 up the inside of Mirabeau, and we get through into P6 and up the road now. 3.6 seconds in front. Here's Lucas, and then Michael I think is just in front of him as well, so if we can catch and pass those two, we'll still get P4, and that will definitely be a good result considering everything that's happened. So that's definitely what I'm trying to do here on lap 35 out of 39. Already I've caught up with them, so my pace was good on this tyre compared to theirs especially, and now we've got to try and find a way through on these two in front. But we're fighting these two for the championship. These two are in the championship fight, as is Deagle, so we've got to try and get as many points as possible in this race compared to these two. So I was desperate to try and find a way through, but just like Spain, Baku and China, it's expected to rain at the end of the race, and I think it's actually started to rain now, so I don't think it's going to reach a stage where we go into the intermediate tyres. But fourth race in a row, I think, yeah, fourth race in a row of it raining in the final few laps is really strange considering the weather system's on dynamic, and it's done that 4 races in a row. That's pretty weird. But anyway, we've still got to try and find a way through on Epic Gamer here, so we're going to maybe look to the inside of Mirabeau there, but we didn't want to go for anything too risky, and we don't want to get a penalty in these final few laps. And I'm not sure how many penalties these two in front actually have, but if we didn't have that collision with Big C, we would be in P4 right now. And I think at this stage I only had the 1 3-second time penalty, and obviously I'm not too sure what the two in front have, so maybe they will come into play and maybe that will boost us up to P4, but we're going to have to wait and see how that goes. And still we can't find a way through on Epic Gamer. So now on to the penultimate lap. Lucas has got a bad run out of turn 1. We're going to maybe try and find a way through into Casino, but he runs a bit of a defensive line around there, so there's no way through. And yeah, we're going to maybe set up a move into Mirabeau, actually hitting the wall there on the entry into that corner, but looking up the inside once again, but there's no way through. And in these conditions you don't want to lock a brake and put us both into a wall, so I'm not going to go for anything too stupid, because at the end of the day points is what we need, and we don't need to be parked up in a wall with no points here today. So you can see Lucas actually hits the wall, and that's sort of put me off there, and I turned in way too early, because yeah, it's a weird situation when that happens in front of you. I saw him hit the wall and I sort of followed him into the same line, and I hit the wall with my rear tyre and spun myself around. Totally my mistake, can't blame anyone else for that. That was totally my mistake, but that just means we're going to have to settle for P6 here today. As you can see, I actually hit the wall there on the last lap, because it's pretty much got to the stage now where it's intermediate tyre conditions, but we're not going to pit obviously on the last lap, so we tiptoe towards the line. My teammate Dom takes the win, and we're going to take P6 here today, which is, yeah, it could have been P4, it could have been a lot better, but P6 in the end is still decent points for the championship, although considering the fact that my race got ruined by being put in the wall at the hairpin, it's definitely quite frustrating. But thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will see you for round 7, the Canadian Grand Prix. Goodbye.